Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. Less smoking worldwide can lead to longer life expectancy. That's not really news and will come as no surprise to anybody. I'll quote, "Faster progress towards ending tobacco smoking over the next 3 decades could extend lives and avoid millions of years of life lost worldwide, making it one of the single most critical health interventions," a new study shows. Based on, and this is in the Lancet Public Health, and we'll, as usual, put the link in the description below. This is from US Right to Know. It's an excellent site. I suggest people who are interested to follow it. Based on current trends, global life expectancy would likely rise to 78.3 years by 2050 from 73.6 years in 2022. Still, the forecast shows nearly 52 billion years of life lost in that period. If tobacco smoking steadily declines to a rate of 5% in 2050, it could add more than 1 year of life expectancy in males and 0.2 in females and avoid 876 million total years of lost life. The immediate elimination of tobacco smoking, and look, that's not going to happen, could add 1.5 additional years of life expectancy amongst males and 0.4 amongst females, and avoiding up to this by 2050, avoiding 2 billion years of life lost total. First question, people are going to say, why more so in males than females? There are more male smokers than female smokers, so therefore any reduction in smoking is going to disproportionately be more in males, and hence we get those numbers. Together, and again I'll quote, these scenarios underscore the magnitude of health benefits that will continue to grow beyond 2050. We've known since the probably early to mid-1960s that smoking is bad for our health. It is and remains the number one cause of preventable premature deaths. Now, we are all, each and every one of us, going to die one day. Premature deaths is the idea that you've died earlier, and again, people can get run over by trucks as well, and you can say that's a premature death, and that would be if you say 20 or 30 or something. But the notion of premature deaths from disease is that the death was in some respects avoidable. Now, people who don't smoke can also get lung cancer, and people who don't smoke can get heart disease, so it's not an absolute. But we can change the relative risks. For example, if you are walking down the footpath or sidewalk, it's not impossible that a car leaves the road and hits you. It does happen. Not that often, but it can happen. If you're walking in the middle of the road, it is also possible that cars can go around you, but we know where you are more likely to get hit and run over. So it's about relative risk and reducing risk. So not smoking does not guarantee that you can't have a heart attack or get some form of cancer and die earlier than perhaps your expected life expectancy, but it reduces those chances significantly, and these numbers bear it out. I'm going to be a little bit of a stuck record, but I think it's important, and in saying that I don't make any apologies for the fact that we should be doing everything reasonably possible to help people stop smoking. People smoke, and this was found or described by, in the 1960s, by, oh God, his name's going to escape me now for a moment. This is terrible. He's a famous psychiatrist, Michael Russell, got it. And he said, smokers come for the nicotine. They don't actually come for the tar and the arsenic and all the other chemicals, but that was the only way they could get nicotine. And for some people, nicotine is their substance of choice. And nicotine is not a carcinogen. It is not nicotine that kills people. That is why you can buy it in patches and sprays and gums at the supermarket in multiple flavours for the gums and sprays, let alone getting a prescription and or having to see a chemist. And those are successful quit methods, and some people find them very helpful. But despite all the efforts for the last 60 years, and a lot of people just throw away the packet and go cold turkey, and great for them if you're able to do that, and a lot of people have. In fact, statistically, it is the commonest and arguably most successful form of quitting smoking. And if that is, and we base that on the fact that more people have done it that way than any other way, because a lot of people gave up smoking before quitting smoking was medicalised. In Sweden, where they support a product called snus, which is a form of chewable tobacco, chewable nicotine, they're down to around 5% smoking, and that's about as close to zero as perhaps we're likely to get, at least in the foreseeable future. New Zealand is into single digits. Japan, cigarette sales have fallen off a cliff. They have a much higher rate to start with, and the UK is getting towards 10%. There's a laggard. Australia, yes, rates are falling, but much more slowly, and other countries have gone past us because, and I assume that regular listeners will know where I'm going with this, but to new listeners, firstly, welcome along. And secondly, vaping nicotine liquid is supported in all of those jurisdictions where smoking rates are falling. In Australia, the government has made it harder for people to stop smoking. You couldn't make this stuff up. Making it harder for people to stop smoking. So to vape in New Zealand, you just go into the store. It's as easy to access as it is to access smoking. Vaping is at least, and this is the UK government's done the work, they've done it 3 times, at least 95% less harmful than smoking. It's not harmless. It's not harmless. If you don't smoke, don't take it up. But it is at least 95% less harmful. And millions of people worldwide have stopped smoking via vaping. And almost all of these people have tried all or most of the other methods and gotten nowhere. And it's the same in Australia. There are estimated, nobody has exact figures, estimated to be about 1 million people vaping. Now, some of them are teens and they shouldn't be doing it, and they're accessing the black market and they shouldn't be doing that either. But, teens aren't meant to drink and they're not meant to use illicit substances. And there's a lot of things that teenagers aren't supposed to do, but somehow they do it, and that's nothing new. Been going on for generations, probably since the year dot. So the health minister, or perhaps more correctly in my opinion, the Minister for Smoking, has made it that if you want to vape, you have to go to a doctor and get a prescription. Any doctor can do it, most won't, and a lot don't know how to do it, and they've been scared off because of all the noise from various medical eminences, and we spoke about that on a different podcast about how medicine tends to be eminence rather than evidence-based. So if certain professors or medical associations say vaping is bad, a lot of the doctors will just say, okay, I won't touch it. So assuming you can get a prescription, you have to find a chemist that will dispense it, and the data, and these changes were introduced in July of 2024, that there's been a really small number of vapes dispensed. The black market is thriving. There have been quite a few hundred fire bombings in different capital cities because criminal gangs are getting involved and fighting for turf, and there are people who have quit smoking successfully who are now going back to smoking because it's just too hard to get vapes. And the teen market just continues merrily along because teens are probably smarter at negotiating the internet than older people who smoke. So they can find the loopholes. It is possible to proverbially walk and chew gum. We manage this with alcohol. It's probably the best example, and even to a degree with cigarettes. It can be sold in licensed venues. You can need photo ID. You can have restrictions around advertising. All of this can be done to, as best possible, protect teens, but also enable adults who are trying to quit smoking to do so using the world's most popular and successful quitting method, which is vaping. Most of the rest of the world gets it. Unfortunately, Australia doesn't, and Australian citizens who smoke are and will continue to pay the price. The amount of excise that the government gets from tobacco is in the order of $15, $16, $17 billion a year. Some people have said, and I'm personally not that cynical to think this is their sole motivation, that they really don't want to lose the revenue, and that colours some of their thinking. I think that's a bit harsh. I really hope that is not the case. Wouldn't totally surprise me, but for now, we'll say that is not the reason. It's just blind ideology and listening to eminence, in inverted commas, people, rather than actually looking at real data and evidence from right around the world. So New Year is coming up. Quitting smoking is a very, very good New Year's resolution, and I wish I could say that in Australia we're making it easier for you to do that. There are other methods. Vaping is not the only one. Cold turkey works for some people. There are patches, there are gums, there are sprays, hypnosis, different programs. Some people use prescription medication. There's a whole host of ways of doing it, all of which have their validity. It's just a tragedy that the world's most popular and successful method is made so difficult in Australia, which has made it harder for people to quit smoking and, as a consequence of that, potentially extend their lifespan. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.